I have a big problem with metrics. In general, not DORA specifically. I kind of like the DORA ones. If you look at all the metrics across the board, I kind of have a problem with just metrics in general, and that is because they are so. The irony is that they're so subjective when they're trying to do something so objective.
Okay.
Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder,
Yeah.
but once you get something, you're measuring it, right? But just to figure out what you're going to measure is so subjective.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and but the bigger problem that I have, other than the subjectivityness of the objectivityness, is that metrics tend to be a forcing function. Like they alter the behavior of a team,
they do.
and I have a
Yeah.
problem with that because you're not now you are not trying to do the best job you could possibly do. You're trying to not get yelled at by your boss, which is what is that? Office Space, the movie?
Yes. Yeah. 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 He's just trying not to get yelled by at six people or yelled
Yeah,
at by six people. Yeah.
right. So you just do just enough work to get your boss off your back, and that's a dangerous place to be.
Yes, exactly. So any system that is measured, it changes the system. And I love seeing metrics. I have the same concerns, but as soon as I enter a system and I understand what the metrics are, I start working to exploit those metrics.
I do
Um,
the opposite. As soon as I see metrics, I I look the other way. I look somewhere else.
so I take a look and I'm like, okay, how can these metrics be exploited? And one of the old examples is software lines of code. So
Oh, Slack.
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 I think that's I think it's universally agreed it's a terrible metric. And however, there are still customers that hire companies and they base the dollar
Yeah,
amount
the
for
payment.
the payment on the numbers, the lines of code, which is just terrible
The
because
Who
you
came
know
up with that?
I don't. Yeah, I'm
Why would
sure
any
it's something government related in the 70s,
but
but
how does that make sense? Like, it's
yeah,
not like I get if you're measuring a production line, you can measure by the number of bolts used on a car.
yeah, that you would think that the number of bolts produced in an assembly line is a reasonable metric.
Right.
Uh,
But when
you
you're looking at a code, like it is an art. You're not gonna grade Picasso by the number of brush strokes he did.
exactly, yeah, but
Mona
that's
Lisa had two brush strokes too little.
yeah.
Poor
Well,
Leo.
they left out the eyebrows, right?
Yeah.
It was only a few more strokes, um, but but yeah, there's a classic Dilbert cartoon on that where Wally just starts, creating lines of code for no reason because that's what he's being measured on is the number of lines of code. Something that could have been accomplished in one line of code, he's doing 10,000 lines of code because that's what he gets measured on. And pretty much as soon as you define your metrics and you publicize what the metrics are to your team. Um, there's whether it's conscious or not, people are working to achieve those metrics and make those metrics look as best as they can. um,
Especially when they're tied to your performance reviews.
well, 100% because they're usually tied to performance
Yeah.
review.
Because my wife was on a program one time early in her career where if she broke the build more than 2 times, that was negatively impacted. Like her performance review was out of 5 points. And if
Mhm.
you didn't break the build at all in a year, that was you get all 5 points. But if you broke it 2 times, the highest you can score was a 4. And then you went down from there. I'm like, well, this is the dumbest thing ever. Why would I even write any code?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So she just didn't write code for the year and got a perfect review.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like I
assuming
wouldn't.
other aspects would be, number of features or something that you wrote.
It's just
But
you gotta be. It's a slippery slope metrics
mhm, it
when,
is.
especially when you have weak leadership.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. Yes. Then you'll find the weaker leadership does definitely focuses on the metrics and nothing else. Um,
And
but
I've been in so many meetings where the meeting was literally let's review the metrics, and so you spend your time in between meetings to prep the metrics in a 24-hour window.
Mhm.
And so your life is like literally like just creating. Like I had that job for like 6 months,
Yeah.
where I would meet at like 3 p.m. and we'd go to like 5 p.m. It was a 2 hour meeting. And in that 2 hour, we'd review all the metrics from the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So as soon as you walked out at 5 p.m. until 3 p.m. the next day, your job was to prep the metrics for the next 2 hour meeting.
There was a customer that will remain nameless, um, that we were brought into to convert them from one project management system to another. In fact, I would normally call them like a change management system. Um, and we were the third team to attempt to do this. And after, like this should not be difficult. We just going to do a data export import from one tool to another after setting up workflows and things like that. And I'm being vague on
The
the product
details.
here.
Yeah.
um, but looking at it, it's like, okay, the last two teams did the exact same thing. There's already data in the new tool that's already set up. The workflows are already there. That we have to refresh the data, putting it in there. It turned out that there was one key stakeholder in the whole system that did not want to go to the new tool because he knew how to manipulate the metrics in the old tool. So, and he was the only one that could. So, anytime uh, they had a meeting to review the metrics, he was hand jamming and configuring the metrics the way he felt they should be
Oh my.
for the meeting, and not the reality of what the tool was really reporting.
Yeah.
Going to the new tool, he didn't feel he had the same value, so he or the same approach. So he was purposely sabotaging the migrations each time.
Yes,
Um,
I got a very similar story. So when I was a DevOps engineer, which is check out our other episode on what, so you can get our thoughts on what it means to be a DevOps engineer. But when I was a DevOps engineer, my manager gave me a responsibility. So the way our structure worked was we were like a team of 9 DevOps engineers, but each one of us was loaned out to a product. And
okay,
so that product had their software engineers, their testers,
not a space, a project, right?
and I wouldn't even call it a project. It was literally, well, it was one of the planes, right? And like every plane had a team of engineers, and I
Okay.
was the DevOps representative for that team. So I was there to help them with their merge conflicts and
Mhm.
and all the Jira, Team City, all their builds, Maven stuff, right? Just do all that stuff. But one of the things my manager had us do was we found a tool that is Click. I don't know if you ever heard of it. QLIK.
Yes. Yeah.
And this was a really neat tool. It was like a stoplight metric because I think appropriate to the topic, right? Talk about if you want to like create metrics that are in, uh, exciting for executives, get a stoplight chart on there.
Yeah.
Red, yellow, green. You'll get every executive super excited,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this click thing was like a red, yellow, green type of chart, but it dug all the way down to the source code. So if there was a bug that was introduced or some vulnerability, like it triggered everything red, and you can dig in and you can go into like the class, or you can go to the file in the class and then the function and then the actual line of code that was causing the problem, which I thought was cool. And
Yeah.
so our manager was like, hey, go to your respective programs and tell them you got to use this. This is the way we're doing it. And Slack was counted through this team now, through
Oh,
this
okay.
tool, right? And we build on Slack.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I had like 6 months on the job, and I go to the program manager. I was like, yeah, so my boss says y'all gotta like switch over to this new stuff. And he's like, with the straightest face, he's like, Alex, we're not doing that. I'm like, okay. So I went back to the boss, my boss, and I'm like, the homie said no. And he's like, well, you tell the homie we're doing this. So I'm like, I'll go back to the homie and I'm like, hey, so my boss is pretty adamant, like, we're doing this. And he's like, well, again, with the straightest face, he goes, Alex, if we switch over to this, we're all out of a job. I had to massage these metrics so hard to make us look like we're actually a functioning team that if I
Yeah.
were to show what's actually in there, we'd all be fired. Like the whole company was shut down today.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the same thing that we discovered, but in a much a much higher level.